Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from fresh perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, special guest, writer and entrepreneur Simon T. Bailey. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm also lovingly known as RCA. I'm here today in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, we love being some of the first voices of positivity that you hear in your week. So happy Monday.
Happy Monday, friends. And we do really believe in an awakening world. We're here to help you grow, prosper, and evolve. And I'm super excited today because we have a special guest. And what our guest doesn't know is we just had our live podcast again air last week. And that was so much fun. We were in downtown Orlando with a live audience. And as much as I love talking to you, Dave, and seeing your mug every week, it was wonderful to see some of our listeners in person. And today we're welcoming a special guest. Mr. Simon T. Bailey is here. Woo!
It's so good to be with you.
Yes, Simon. Welcome. We are glad to have you here. And tell me where you are this morning. Are you traveling and speaking right now?
Today, I am in Franklin, Tennessee, right outside Nashville, a little area called Cool Springs.
Oh, that is an awesome area. And are you working there?
I am.
Yes, very, very good. Well, I thank you for being on the show. And Dave, is this show 276, you said?
Show 276.
Wow. So, Simon, you can see that we've been around a while, 276 shows. And I'm glad you're here because I've known about your work, as I mentioned to you, for many years. And I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself because I've known you as a speaker, as a motivator, but you're also an author, you're a coach, and you're traveling around. And what you're really doing is awakening people to their inner power and their inner possibilities. So I'm excited about the work you're doing. So I want, in your words, to tell our listeners a little bit about what you're doing. Like, tell us what you're doing right now in Franklin.
So today I get a chance to talk to a few hundred roof inspection, amazing individuals who every single day are trying to improve the lives of homeowners.
Yeah.
And I will have a chance to share with them, how do you really come into alignment with your brilliant self? How do you find that spark? Because when you find that spark, you find your voice. And when you find your voice, you find your freedom and you become unstoppable.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, and that's a cornerstone really of your teaching. It's about finding your spark, finding that brilliance, and then living from that. And I think part of your journey has been owning your own inner brilliance. I think a lot of us in our culture today learn, especially in the workforce, we learn to support a vision. Maybe it's of a company, maybe it's of an organization. But I think, and that's wonderful, but I think as you find your true authentic voice, like you have found, it kind of catapulted you into a new arena in terms of how you wanted to live your passion, your vision for your life.
Yeah, I really believe when you find your voice and you find your brilliance, you shift from chasing money to chasing meaning. And living a meaningful life is so fulfilling because you live from the inside out and you take control of the steering wheel instead of being driven by the backseat passengers of doubt, fear, stress, and uncertainty. And you're like, no. I'm getting off at the next exit. You're getting out so that I can get onto the highway of life.
Exactly right. I often say that nearly the same thing, that I call it living from soul, but it's all the same message. If you're living only at the level of materiality, it has its limits, because whenever you get to what it is you think you want, it's never satisfying, right? Because it's not based in meaning, that there's no outer amount that will equal the level of happiness you're seeking. Yeah.
Yeah, RCA, you said it so beautifully. When you come into that internal alignment, it creates external execution,
Yes.
and you move into a flow where you become unstoppable and you have this vibe, this frequency that just allows you to shine from the inside out.
Yes. Yes. I was talking with a client the other day and I said, you know, you're zigging, they're zagging, and there's a whole nother level that you know I'm wanting you to level up to, which is this level of knowing. It's clarity. It's you know, when you're checking things out from the internal, you know what's yours to do, when and how to do it, and you move forward and do it. There's not all this angst and struggle. You know what's yours to
There
do.
isn't.
You know what's yours to
Mhm.
do. And you're kind of following this energy that is from the inside, and yet you get all kinds of external validation. And I had remembered hearing you speak a while back. I was listening to a talk where you were really motivating. I think it was a group of photographers. It was a really big auditorium. And you talked a little bit about your path because you were at Disney for many years. And just like we're talking about following that inner guidance, your outer reflected this inner desire to be more. And even as you left the company, which was, you know, had served you well for many years, it was just time. And you got outer affirmation of that. And you also had to trust yourself a great deal for that. So, yeah, say
Yeah.
a little bit about that journey.
So what I love about what you just articulated, I'm here in Nashville, and of course, what pops into my head is you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know
Exactly.
when to walk away.
Amen to that. Yes.
And when you make that decision, you move into an intersection called unknown and known. The known is what has allowed you to be comfortable, but the unknown is what you don't know.
Mm,
But there's this wooing and this drawing and this desire that, you know what, I got to go for the unknown
mm,
because what I have known has taken me as far as it can take me. But it's the
mm,
unknown that speaks to my deep soul.
mm. It's so true. It's so true. And there's really I keep coming back to this word in our conversation. I think we'll probably be there all day, is to talk about this feeling of inner freedom, this joy, this passion, this following the inner voice, because it is a little bit of a circular process. You know, you are guided a certain direction, you trust, you step, you know, you move, you experience freedom, and then you say, oh, time to move again, right? It doesn't stop just because you make a big shift. That's a process that's ongoing when you're really trusting at the level you and I are talking about trusting.
Yeah, and it's deciding to take the handcuffs off once and for all.
Yes.
Because until you take the handcuffs off, you will forever be stuck in prison in what could be instead of what should be.
Yes. 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 Well, and I would imagine as you chose to leave a company that known and successful, I'm sure people thought you had lost your mind. And and sometimes we have to lose our minds, right? Lose our minds to find our soul. And sometimes you really have to do the unexpected to go that next level of growth and awareness.
I totally did it. I cashed in my entire 401k with significant Disney stock. For all the financial planners listening, don't get scared right now. Like a good poker player, I went all
Oh,
in.
yeah.
I turned down 4 jobs with other companies. And in RCA, I just decided to throw caution to the wind. And guess what? Corporations were laying off by the hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
And everybody at Disney said, "You have got to be kidding me. Have you lost your
Mm.
mind?" And I said, "Yeah, I can. But if I don't take a bet on me, no one else
It's
will."
so true. Well, and I also know that, you know, after you left, especially during COVID, the number of people that got laid off there was, you know, unbelievable. So one of the things I teach is what looks for sure in this outer world that we depend on, that looks like there's control or safety, in fact, can be gone overnight. I was working in Kansas City. I don't know if you remember the company WorldCom, but I was working in Kansas City, and I had two folks I was working with closely then, and they walked into my office and said, and were stunned. And I said, "Are you okay?" And they said, "No, we were just walked out of our jobs, and they were high level managers with loads of employees under them, high income, everything. And overnight, everything was gone. And they had put all of their belief in the organization rather than where are we to be? What are we to be doing?" And boy, that catapulted them unexpectedly into a time of soul searching and obviously job searching. But so now they're in a different place. Now they're in the driver's seat of their lives, as I often say. But boy, it was not by choice. And so I think as you left, it was really from a greater place of power to know, this is not for me anymore, and I'm moving into this new arena. And I think some of us get a little stuck because we say, well, I don't know how. And the mind and the ego always want to know, well, what's my next step? And that's where the trust comes in, right?
It's trusting the process. When I left Disney and all of a sudden I put my shingle out, the phone wasn't necessarily ringing because I didn't have the covering of a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
And like you read the headlines, thousands of people are being laid off every day, every week, somewhere in the world. But here's what I want everyone to know. Whenever you have been laid off, that company just did you a favor. They just gave you the passageway to your destiny that awaits you, because you get to start with a blank sheet of paper and create your future.
Yes, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And knowing and trusting that takes a real belief in oneself. And again, I think, especially in our culture, in our American culture. And I'm saying that, Simon, because our listeners are in over 100 countries all around the world. And so sometimes what's happening in America culturally is a little bit different. But, in our culture, we're not always taught to believe in ourselves. Most of us grew up with the idea that children are to be seen and not heard. And so learning to trust that inner voice. Some of us come through a spiritual journey, some of us through a therapeutic and spiritual journey. And that was really my journey. Was even though I had a spiritual path, I realized on the emotional level, self-awareness and healing had to happen for me to really believe in myself. And so for some of our listeners, I want to say, depending on where you are on the journey, we're not saying quit your job tomorrow. We're saying begin to listen to the inner voice so that you know what is yours to do, when, and how to do it, and to trust that you'll be guided. And if you can't trust that, then that's where the work is. And the work may be therapeutic. The work may be spiritual. It may be learning to quiet one's mind through a meditative or breathing practice. It might be through, working on the body to see where am I holding on to stuck energy. So I think for our listeners, I want to just make sure they know we're saying not go out and quit your job, but listen to that inner voice and trust that you are being guided on this path, on this journey we call life.
RCA, I agree with you so much, because one of the things that I started doing was journaling.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I knew I was getting ready to leave Disney, I started writing down, what does the future look like? What can I do? Number one. Number two, I also had to practice forgiveness. There were some internal things that I needed to just forgive myself, things that happened with family or life, right? But then I had to surrender. And when I talk about surrender, it's not trying to have all of the answers, but it's being open to what is emerging.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. And forgiveness and surrender are definitely themes on our show, because I believe forgiveness is a key to freedom. Absolutely. Because when we are in resentment or anger and we're holding on to that, what we've learned both scientifically, emotionally, and spiritually, actually, is that stuck energy is constricting, and it only builds more negativity. It can even cause illness in the body. right? And we know there's a mind-body connection. When we worry, we get a stomach ulcer. When we're under stress, we get high blood pressure and heart problems. So, I mean, we even know physically forgiveness is a good idea. But what we know is emotionally and spiritually, professionally even, we can't move forward on the journey as long as we're stuck in the past. And those angers and those resentments, those feelings of what ifs and woulda, coulda, shoulda, all those things, all those ways we stay stuck in the past. It's like this new day and that wants to come forward for us simply cannot come forward as long as we're anchored in the past.
Oh, totally agree. You know, it's difficult to drive in the future while looking through the rearview mirror. How do you begin to look through the windshield of where you're going instead of where you've been? And it's something that I just believe wholeheartedly.
Yes. I was just I did a pretty deep journaling the other day, and it was one of those where my son was home. I have a 16-year-old, and he was home, and I said, hon, I'm going to do a deep dive meditation and journaling. And he's super, into that and aware. He's a leader in the youth group and all that. So he knows about all that stuff. And I went deeper maybe than I ever have. And the things that came up for release were so interesting. And in this case, even I was remembering just gratitudes from out my entire life. Like I was like naming small things, a place in the woods I used to go, and a way I used to feel. I was even bringing those things up, acknowledging those and saying, thank you, and what is new. So sometimes the release is not even of the negative. It's simply to attachment to what was. And since that process, it's like been several days, and every day, like some new energy is coming forward for me. So I don't know what's next, but I trust that what is coming next is going to be good. It is going to be holy. It is going to be in alignment with what I am to do and be, because it's anchored in the now, it's anchored in love, and it's anchored in the present moment. It's not about where I was or where I was born or what my birth order was or what mama did or didn't do or what daddy did or didn't do. No, it's right here. Who am I to be today? And that really is a completely different way of living than all the expectations of the past coming forward every single day. Yeah.
Wow. Well, first of all, let's just take a moment and just honor your journey and where you've been to get to this point. I think that's tremendous. And listening to you reminds me of every day asking ourselves what went well today instead of what went wrong.
Great question.
And when we focus on what's going right, it allows us to really be joyful in that moment. But then I think the third thing, and this is going to come as a shocker to everyone listening to us, is to find someone every day, either via text, phone call, in person. How can I serve you? Because when I come from a place of service to others, all of a sudden you set up something in the universe spiritually where people will begin to serve you when you least expect. Because when I ask, how can I serve you? I'm not looking for anything in return. The research, according to Emory University, says when you help others, the reward centers in our brain begin to light up, almost as if we have been on the receiving end of the person we've helped. And guess what they call it, RCA? What? They call it the helper's high.
I love it. Well, we experienced that on the show. We had a dear friend of mine. He coaches a kids team called ABC All-Stars or All-Stars ABC. Anyway, and it's a group of basketball. He has basketball programs. And years ago, he was in my congregation and he strongly believes in the things I teach. And so I went in and was teaching the kids one of my teachings called 3 Keys to the Success Mindset. It was about thought, belief, and action. And I bring that up often because and I just talked about it, I guess I'm realizing, sorry, Dave, last week on the live show, but that's all right. But every time I'm with the kids, I just feel so lit up because it just feels good to help people. It does. It just feels good to help people. And then it has brought other opportunity that I never would have imagined. You know, I'd had this vision about working with the Orlando Magic, and I called coach, and, you know, he's played in the NBA. And I said, is there any, you know, I'm asking as a friend, is there a way you see this happening? Am I living in a dream world? But I just see that. And he said, well, the hard thing with the work you do is, how do you say to people, you need me? And I said, well, my only thought is that I love the Orlando Magic and I want to see them win. And there's the only reason they're not winning is the mindset. It's not the talent. The talent's there. And so anyway, long story short, several opportunities have come forward that we were just holding in mind. And I said, let me just, come work with the kids. And we've had him on the show, and I, supported him and his wife and their son. And I've been now with the Osceola Magic, which is the minor league to the Orlando Magic. And I was just in touch with their vice president the other day. So I'm not working with them yet, but I've had many conversations. And so I just feel it's going to happen. Again, it's about trusting that journey. And it really came from me being of service. So yes, I did have an intention to possibly work with the Magic, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to go serve so that, it was really just about being of service and saying, holding this intention, but then showing up and being of service. And so, and if I go speak out of town, that's what I always try to do. Find an organization where I'm going to be and just serve. Go be of service, share what I can, lift people up. And, my way is always made for me. So I feel like it's the only way to live, really. And it's the highest way to live, to be in service to humanity. And it's, frankly, in my view, a guarantee of success. If you're about serving others highest good, the universe is always going to support that, because that's in alignment with creation itself. Creation gives to us every day. We have enough air to breathe, enough sun to keep us warm, enough, there's the beauty all around us every day. So it's like trusting in that energy as we move forward.
I totally agree, because the more you give, the more you receive.
Always.
Because you're giving with no strings attached.
Yes.
And it's coming from that disposition that sets up this surround sound of opportunities coming back your way, all because you came from heart, not just head, all because you decided to use your hands, not just your mind, to make a difference.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And the thing I wanted to mention about your work too, if somebody wants to contact you, I feel like I want to say more about some of your teachings. And a couple things as I was researching again, because like I say, I've followed your work for a while. The quotes I love, a couple of the quotes I love are people before profits, which I think would change business today. Fundamentally, if that were practiced on a regular basis, because I feel like people don't understand that we're so focused on the bottom line that we're missing the people that make the bottom line. And that if more companies realize that the bottom line just improves when you're putting people first. So say a little bit about that.
The reason you put people before profits, because when people know that they are cared for, people will care for people.
It's so true.
And when people care for people, the money will find itself to your company, because people can spiritually and intuitively sense that it's not about me, but it's about we, it's about us. Right. And when we come together, we move beyond pigmentation of skin and socioeconomic status to realize that you're on the planet just like I am, and I need you and you need me. So when we put people first, all of a sudden the profit will come. And what we're doing, RCA, is we're coming from a place of abundance, not scarcity. And that abundance mindset impacts everyone.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And also, though, and you've spoken about this, and I speak about it often, our words, the way we communicate, say needs, goals, and desires of the people that work with us or under us, that one of your phrases is, hug with your words, that language is the software of the mind, right? And so that's a great way of thinking about it. You can't bark at your employees and wonder why they're not happy doing the job. This engaging, enrolling collaboration and is key. And, one of my teachings on this is the power of intention. That's some of the work I'm moving out into the corporate world now is using intention before you ever start a communication with your staff or your team. What is your intention? And you can, quote unquote, not say it right, but if your energy is on board, if your intention is clear, it's amazing what comes back in reflection of that. So it's not even about saying every word right. It's about that intention behind the words. And I know that's what you're speaking of. When you're saying hug with your words, you're saying, yes, those words, kindness, uplifting, encouraging, supportive. And that intention happens before those words ever come out. And I think that's super important to create what I call a healthy work culture.
You just sparked an idea in me that I've never said before in a stream of conscious, but you said it and I saw it so clearly. Sometimes people are servicing from a place of stress, not compassion.
Totally.
So the energy that comes in that service is fear, worry, and uncertainty. But I'm doing it because it's a job. Job stands for just overboard. But when I come and I serve from a place of compassion, right, I'm serving from a place of love because there is wholeness, WHOLE, wholeness in my soul. There's not a hole in my soul, HOLE. Right. So sometimes people are serving out of stress because of the holes, the energy leaks that's in their soul.
Oh, absolutely true. And, when everybody's worried and stressed, it's like the worst possible, we know psychologically, scientifically, when we're in a trauma state, and that's what you're talking about. Stress is a trauma state. We can't breathe. Yeah. Our minds can't function right. We are not open to collaboration. We close down. We get really myopic. And what I'm speaking of, what you're speaking of, is a completely different environment where actually new ideas are actually welcomed because there's this spirit of creativity and, yes, getting the job done. I mean, we all have a job to get done. But there seems to be this idea in business, if you're not miserable doing it, somehow, somehow you're doing it wrong. It's like, oh, you mean we can be collaborative? We can have calm meetings. We can even go off in dyads and create and come back and come up with a better solution than if we sit here and hammer it out for hours and pour the coffee and be in the stress and yelling at each other. Like there's a whole nother way to be. And I think that's what you and I are trying to bring into this business, corporate setting. I think the number one thing I'm trying to do is help people create healthy environments wherever they are, whether it's work or home. But my work in business is most definitely that.
The importance of your work and your calling and what you're doing right now reminds me of the time when I shared the stage with Dr. Stephen Covey. He said something that absolutely blew me away. He said, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spirit beings having a human experience. And so what your work is saying, be a spiritual being first, then a natural being second. Yes. Because when we come from that place of spirit, we're in service, and guess what? We're in freedom. And when we are in freedom, we invite others to find freedom within themselves.
So true. Yeah. I was able a couple months ago to go work with an organization, and I'm working with them again coming up. They're a not-for-profit, and they're up in Pennsylvania, and they do amazing work. They work with adults with special needs. And so I was doing a training with them, and it was one of my intention. It was called Intention, Innovation, Motivation. And it was so amazing to watch physical therapists, direct care staff, like realize how impactful, they were going to be with their patients simply by showing up differently. I mean, it was just miraculous to watch. And I thought, wow, what if we could all start applying that to any interaction, not just our work interactions, but that we're conscious with our family, with our kids. You know, if I'm intentional with my son and my communications with him, they go a lot better than if I'm, unconscious or I'm distracted or, I'm not on board with, where he is. So I think it really is a game changer when we begin to wake up to how much power we have and that we live, in a greater way from intention. And as we're both saying, from the soul, from the spiritual self.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so tell us what is next for you, because I know even though you have a lot to do, you and I both talk about being overdoing. So what are your next steps, both on your journey and work-wise? What's happening for you? I know you're doing a lot of speaking right now and traveling. And what's next for you? You're in Tennessee today, and what's next?
So our big thing is we are inviting people to really discover brilliant you. We have been conditioned in this world to go to a job to retire. But I believe we have now entered into the brilliance age. And in the brilliance age, you discover brilliant you and you go to work to rewire. So no matter what you are doing in life, you shift from retirement to rewirement. And that rewirement is about living from the inside out and discovering brilliant you. You are brilliant. So you can be parachuted into any environment and you take your education, your experiences, your know-how. For me, I'm flawed. I'm perfectly imperfect. So I take my flaws and my imperfections into any environment and I show up fully human, ready to love and understand that encouragement is oxygen for the soul.
Oh, I would say absolutely true. I don't know anybody who doesn't feel better after a little encouragement. That is for sure. Well, we thank you for your time today, Simon. And I know we're going to have information in our show notes, with your website and ways to contact you, but we support you. We're here for you. If there's a way we can support your journey, if there's a way we can lift you up, we want to. And that was one of the reasons for having you on the show, to make this connection and to make it real and to say, keep up the great work. We need more individuals in every setting doing what it is you're doing. Uplifting, engaging, enrolling, supporting, motivating, believing in, and we see that this is the work you're doing, and we're happy to partner with you today on it. So Simon T. Bailey, thank you. And we want to first also say again to our listeners, thank you so much. And we know you are joining us from around the world. And so I know many of you are in international business. So remember, Simon, in thinking about all the work that you're doing, I'm thinking of our friends in South Africa who've been on as well, Dave, some of our guests who are in international business. So friends, thank you for all your financial support as well. I am so grateful every day that you support the show with your dollars, and we're honored to support your journey. So we look forward to seeing you next week, and blessings on the journey, dear friend.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2023, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.